Welcome to another exciting episode of AUPP podcast. Hello everyone, my name is Nita.
And my name is Watt, and I will be joining Nita to host today's episode. Hello, Nita. It's been a while since we meet each other, so how are you doing?
Yeah, you're right. It's been quite a long while. It has been quite an up and down week for me, but filming this podcast is definitely the up part because I'm very excited for today's guest.
Yes, Nita, and I'm actually very excited for today's guest as well. And just a spoiler alert for our audience, our guest today is actually not in Cambodia, but actually a few thousand miles away from us, all the way in the United States.
You know what's more funny? We are currently filming here in Cambodia at around 7:30 a.m. in the morning on Monday, but our guest is actually there, and her time is at 5:30 p.m. on Sunday. This is the first time and also very interesting to have this crossover of time zone difference.
So, not to keep our audience curious any longer, let us welcome Sievlan Len, our AUPP alumnus and also a recent graduate from Stanford University. So, hello Bong, welcome to our show. How are you doing, Bong?
Good morning to everyone in Cambodia, and thank you so much, Sonita and Verebot, for such a very warm introduction. I'm doing good, and really excited to join the podcast today. And thank you so much for inviting me as a guest speaker.
Hello, welcome once again. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation. We are honored to have you here today. So, to kickstart our show, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself just to break the tension around here, break the ice, and get us more familiar with one another?
Great. So a little bit about myself. I'm a recent graduate from Stanford University, Master's in International Policy. And I just also wrap up book projects with my advisor on trying to explain the rise of Asia Pacific through global talents development. And before coming to Stanford, I was an AUPP alums, graduated back in 2018 with Global Affairs. I am also an alumna of the Habswell Foundation, where I call second home, where I got trainings in leaderships and, have a lot of friends who I call sisters. And before that, during my undergrad, I was also doing some internships back in Cambodia, focusing on Cambodia's democracy, rule of law, and women empowerment.
Thank you very much, Bong. That is very interesting coming from you. And also, like after I heard about your experience at AUPP and also at Stanford, like I am personally curious about how you transition yourself from being an AUPP student and AUPP alumni to also a student at Stanford University and now a graduate at Stanford University. So on that note, can you walk us down your memory lane and briefly share with us like a glimpse of your life after you graduated from AUPP?
That's a very good questions. And just taking back to like graduating memory lanes, I remember when I graduated from AUPP in 2018, I had very little idea of what I wanted to do, but there was this one thing that I knew I wanted, which was doing a master's degree. So I applied to various jobs and also, scholarship applications for graduate program and also an exchange program. So I got acceptance into one of the universities in Singapore, but didn't get the funding. So I decided to go on the Habswell exchange program 1 year in the United States, thinking that I can take that time to build more skills in economics analysis and kind of like, just travel and see the cultures and just meeting people from different parts of the world and just trying to explore a little bit more about myself. So I thought that was a really good decision because that kind of allowed me to understand more of what kind of master's program that I actually wanted to do. So I narrowed down to public policy and international policy. So I applied to those programs, also applied to PhD. But then I decided I was awarded the Knight Hennessy Scholarship and master's in international policy at Stanford. So I decided to go with a master's at Stanford instead of PhDs because I thought that being at Stanford would be a really interesting time, and it's a very good and resourceful university.
Hearing about your glimpse after you graduated from AUPP, I can see that it was quite a journey trying to explore yourself. But I can see that while you were exploring yourself, you have also made various achievements, which I really admire. And yes, Stanford is a very dreamy place for everyone, and I've searched once and it says that the acceptance rate to Stanford University is only around 4%, which already show how amazing you are, especially entering as a scholarship student. So if we just go back to the beginning a bit, how on this amazing journey, what inspired you to apply for Stanford University?
Thank you. I'm very flattered. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's I know it can be really difficult applying to programs, master's programs in the U.S. Not to mention not to mention Stanford. I was going through the same thing that a lot of people go through, just thinking that you're small and that you cannot, compete with these, pools of thousands and, thousands of applications. But you know what? I was inspired by this quote that I randomly saw on Facebook just right before I applied. It says, don't be afraid of failure, but be afraid of not giving yourself a chance. So I was like, nobody knew that they would get into Stanford, right? But what distinguished between those who get it and those who had zero chances, one applies and one doesn't, right? So I decided to give myself a chance just with that glimpse of hope. So I believe hope is really important in this journey. So, I just sent in the application. I didn't really think that I would get in, actually, to be honest. So it just took me by, I was really happy that I got in. So to those who considers applying, it is hard, but it is not impossible. And just don't regret a failure, but regret of not giving yourself a chance. So give yourself a chance, pull up the application, because there is nothing to lose but gain. So go for it.
Yes, Bong, thank you very much. That is very, very inspiring. And honestly, that is something that I currently in need right now, like a glimpse of inspiration and motivation, and that is very inspiring. And thank you for sharing your quote with us as well. That, like, I personally find it very powerful and very impactful as well. Thank you very much, Wong. And well, now, like, I would like to give a heads up to our audience, and I also would like to give a quick shout out to our seniors and my fellow juniors out there for our next question. Since Wong Sievlan is about to share with us a very important details information about our next question. So Wong Sievlan, can you share with us a little bit about the requirement as well as the administration process for applying for this master degree program in the United States?
Thank you for the questions. Yeah, going through this can be really rigorous. Okay, I note down several things so that I can talk about it like specifically step by step. So just a little bit of clarification. So I got a scholarship through Knight Hennessy program in Masters of International Policy. So I'm gonna talk specifically about those programs and specifically to Stanford. Um, so there are several, I list down 6 main requirements. One is the applications. So if you want to apply to Knight Hennessy, you can check out the website and you can see when the application deadline is. So right now the application deadline is open, which is a good news for those who are prepared. Then you can go ahead and apply. It's going to be closed until open until October 6th. So first you have to do 2 different applications. One is almost concurrently. One is to the Knight Hennessy itself, and another one is to the department programs that you are interested in. And in those applications, the requirements are writing sample, of course. This is pretty standard, around 15 to 20 pages, and standardized tests, especially for us who is not a native English speaker. You'll need a TOEFL and GRE, depending on the program that you apply to. And then another one is letter of recommendations. You need at least 3 to 4 letters of recommendations. And academic record, of course, like if you go to AUPP, then you have a better chance here because your transcript is already in English, and it's really easy to request your academic record to be sent over to Stanford. I have friends who submitted that had problems with having to translate their academic transcripts and also having to contact the registrar to send your academic record over to Stanford. Last but not least, personal statement. It's very important. I'm not going to walk through how to write a personal statement, which you can, always look up YouTube or look up online, but just want to stress that personal statement is really important. It needs to be, organized in a story, engaging ways, and explaining your motivations and your contributions to the program. And Knight Hennessy is very special in a sense that in addition to that, they require essays, which is, an essay that would evaluate your contribution to the society, and also improbable facts. I have never applied to anything that has improbable facts. So improbable facts is the facts that is true about you, but people wouldn't think that it would be true. So look that up. And another requirement is a video, a short 2 minutes video about certain topics that they give you. So yeah, it sounds really scary. I know. So along with that, with the recommendation, I know you can always look it up on their website and see what kind of stuff they need. So I would like to focus more on how you can tackle those requirements, because it's so daunting. So for me, what I found really helpful is to go over the admission website and see what is required. I listed it down, and then I make a kind of a calendar for myself and break it down into small manageable steps that I'm gonna do each week or each days. And it's always really important to break it down like this, so that when you feel daunting, then you have a bouncing time to go somewhere, relax, or talk to friends. It's also really important to talk to friends who think highly of you, so that they can motivate you, you're one of those people. It's important to believe in yourself, but sometimes when you look at the profile of these people who've got Knight Hennessy scholarship, I am not lying when I said I felt like I was less than half of them. What I meant by that is the achievement is just great, but also believe that you're also great in your own way. That's why it's important to have friends who can tell you that you can do it. So yeah, I think that is really helpful to me, like always believing that you can and talk to someone who think highly of you.
Thank you very much, Bong. The application process sounds so wow. Like, yes, you're right. It's scary, but at the same time, the fruit that we get at the end of the journey is very fruitful and very rewarding. And I really like your tips as well to surround yourself with people who think highly of you. Sometimes you can feel something from yourself, but you also need validation from your environment, and that is a very great tips. But as we are talking, I realized that the application process itself is already difficult, but on to the next part, which is when you actually pass and you get there. It's also equally difficult, considering how you have to be miles away from home, from your family. Just as we are dealing with time zone different here with our filming, I bet you also deal with this kind of problems when you try to contact your friends and family back in your home countries. So the next question is something related to that. What are the fundamental challenges that you have encountered so far, and how have you overcame them?
Yeah, actually, regarding time zone, I really had difficulty at first explaining my parents about the time difference, and sometimes they get it wrong and would call me at 3 a.m. in the morning, and like I was like, "Hello," and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Sleeping." So yeah, time difference can be a challenge when you communicate with your parents. So yeah, we just said, I just convert the time for them and say like, okay, please call me only during this time period in Cambodia. So that works out really well. Regarding challenges, um, there are several. One of them, when I first came, was imposter syndrome. Of course, that is really widespread, especially at a university like Stanford. So imposter syndrome, basically thinking that you are an imposter. You get selected because you somehow managed to deceive the committee or something. And that feeling is because you are surrounded by really bright people and that you just felt small. So I had a little bit of that at the beginning, thinking, I'm not Stanford quality. You know what I mean? That kind of made me a little bit quiet at the beginning. But what I try to do is like the first steps to solving a problem is knowing that the problem exists, right? So did a little bit of reading about imposter syndrome, how to overcome it, and then always remember that I have a voice and that my voice matters. So that really pushed me to speaking up and be outgoing, making friends. Validating by friends also like really helpful. So yeah, I would never thought of myself as someone who would be quiet, because I thought of myself as like an extrovert talking and stuff, but like when there is a change of environment and you're put at a place where you think they are better than you, it's very easy to fall into this imposter syndrome. So yeah, I overcome that by just always remembering that I am important and I deserve the things that I got. And then second challenge is the pandemic. Really, it was really difficult to adapt to online learning at first, because early on I had a lot of statistics class. So you can imagine, learning statistics through online. It's challenging, to say the very least. I had to rewatch the videos, catching up on like what the professor actually said. and it's hard to ask like statistic questions and math questions online, right? But what helped me get through it is I have a group of friends I study with, that we do homework together, do assignments together, and just go through the process together. That was really helpful. And yeah, and another challenge is work-life balance during the pandemic, especially because you don't really have to go anywhere, so you just felt like you have endless time to do whatever you need to do. So that didn't make me more productive at first. It's just made me work a lot more but not really productive. I used to read something that I used to read for like 2 hours. It would take me like half a day just because I didn't think I needed to go anywhere else. So that was like really stressful. And I overcame that by, setting up schedules, building in, exercise time, going out time with friends. So yeah, that was really helpful. Exercising isn't a waste of time. It's your right and not a reward, I'd say. Yeah.
Yes, well, thank you very much for sharing, and I also personally really appreciate you being vulnerable and share about your challenges, especially the imposter syndrome, in which I personally do feel small sometimes as well. So hearing from you talking about it, like it feels very inspiring and very motivating, like at the least I can say. Like I feel like everything that you said earlier, like everything like it's just very very impactful and very powerful. Yeah, so yeah, Bong, you are like you deserve to be there. And also Bong, like regarding the pandemic, yes, what you brought up is amazing, and we all need some schedule to just boost our motivation sometime, because in the life during pandemic, it's getting very fast and slow at times, and sometimes like those time drain very fast and you don't know what the things that you get done, like some of the stuff might not get done on time because the time just went very fast at times. And yeah, thank you very much once again, Swan, for sharing that. And well, we all know that AUPP is an American style university that follows the US curriculum. So I am personally curious, and I would like to like take this time to like ask you this question. So Bong, can you share with us how your experience at AUPP helped you to adapt with your master degree program at Stanford University?
Yeah, definitely. AUPP has been really helpful in terms of training me to, think critically, read critically, and write persuasively. And that skill is really important in any jobs, and especially in grad school, because you read, you write a lot, and you have to, interact with your professors a lot, asking questions. So that has been really useful. Another aspect that AUPP education has been really helpful for me is the fact that AUPP always give us like curriculums, syllabus, right, before you start. And I remember when I first transitioned into AUPP, and I was like, what is this piece of paper? What, like if you are educated in the Cambodian high school, you never really see the syllabus. You don't really know what you gonna be learning or how to plan your schedule around that, right? But at AUPP, because I was introduced to that during my undergrad, I knew how to plan around my syllabus, what kind of things I need to learn, what kind of things am I expected to know before a certain day or certain period. So that's really helpful for me. And another thing, I bet like all AUPP students might know this, Dr. Alice famously said, generally remind us that university is a place to learn how to learn. and not a place where you just learn something and that's it, right? So at being in grad school is very different from undergrad in a way that what you're tested is not necessarily what they have taught you, and that there are certain things that they will not teach you, but they expect that you know it. You know what I mean? Like nobody gonna teach you like critical writings all again, even if like it wasn't covered in anything. But being at a UPP, I was used to, you know, if you're interested in certain subjects, then you need to learn how to learn that subjects. So that skill has been really valuable to me, especially at Stanford.
Thank you, Wong. You're right. Learning how to learn is very important, and it's very interesting that you brought up this point. And I'm also like very surprised and interested at the same time when you brought up imposter syndrome, because it is a topic that me and my friend discuss quite a lot. We joke around about it, about how we have imposter syndrome and social comparison and so on. And you're right, a change of an environment is a place that imposter syndrome can happen very easily. And I think that I myself also experienced some sort of imposter syndrome when I first entered university. And time fly by that now I'm already in my 4th year and I'm about to graduate. So I'm really afraid that I would fall into another one, but hopefully not. But anyway, as I am about the time to also decide on my graduate studies, the next question is something that I am personally very interested in, and I hope that our audience also take note of this very interesting question. That is, in your opinion, Bong, do you think that it is better for students to take a gap year, like spend sometimes after graduating working, or you think that it is better to immediately pursue your the people graduate study right after they graduate from their bachelor degree?
That's a very good question. As everything in life, you know, there is no black or white or like just yes or no for everyone. Everyone is different depending on your goal and your career. So if you know that you're interested in academia, basically going up to like PhD and then go and teach later on, I think then it makes more sense to, you know, you can just go straight into like master's and PhD so that you can just get there while you're still young, you know, because PhD takes a long time. But for a lot of people who just want to work in the professional world, going into a master right after or having some work experience first and then go after, I don't think it matter that much. I have in my university program, there are in my master programs, there people come from all walks of life. You know, the average work experience is around 6 years, but there are also people who just come fresh from undergrad, and we both have our own advantages and disadvantages. So for those who come fresh from undergrad, they have an advantage because they are still in the, you know, learning mindset, in like, you know, used to working on weekends, working, you know, late at night. So, and their brain is just like brush in terms of absorbing everything. But then the disadvantage is like the inability to link the real world to theories. So that is a little bit of a challenge. But for people who has worked 2 years, it's a bit hard for them to transition their mindset from the working mindset, having Saturday and Sunday off, back to school and like trying to, you know, doing something that does not really have a kind of productive value in the society. If you're used to like working, for example, strategizing in like marketing and stuff, and you see your products being used in the real world, but then when you come back to like classroom and master programs, you write a thesis that no one else would read but you and your professor. You know, it's a little bit hard in that sense. So yeah, I really think that it has its own advantages and disadvantages. So it really depends on your goal. And it wouldn't, to me, even if I come fresh from undergrad, I think I wouldn't mind having worked 2 years either, and I would still enjoy my time as much as, you know, fresh from undergrad. So I think it really depends on your goal and aspiration. um yeah, although I would say this, if you are interested in pursuing grad school after undergrad, you should at least plan 1 to 2 years in advance in terms of preparing for the necessary qualifications. And getting to grad school, it's not something that you say, okay, I want to get to grad school next year, and then it will, boom, it will happen next year. It doesn't. Sometimes you get rejected. So it's a learning process. Take it as a learning experience to like refine your personal statement, refine your applications, and applying it next year. So yeah, that was a long answer, I think. But I hope you know, I hope it wasn't like a black or white you know, answer. That's with a lot of things in life. So yeah.
I totally agree with you on the fact that the answer to this question is very subjective to each person's preference and circumstance. And now we are already at our last question. Just before you go, may you just share with us a last short message to our audience?
Thank you so much for having me, and it was a great chat with Viratbot and Sutmita, and thank you so much for making this podcast a success. I pretty much enjoy listening to some of the things that you guys have made too, and I really hope by sharing my experience today would inspire others to pursue their goals and passions. But if you are interested in pursuing grad school, I just want to mention again that it's a tedious process, but always have hope and confidence in yourself. And the best you can, no matter whether or not you wanted to do it like right after your undergrad or a few years after you have worked, just remember that the application process can take a while. So make sure to look at the application process 1 to 2 years in advance so that you can prepare yourself. And by the time that you are ready to go for application, you can just apply. Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you very much for sharing, and I hope that all the seniors and juniors out there, and just university students in general, who are interested in studying grad schools, like after they graduated from the university, can take note of what Sievlan has just shared with us earlier. Yeah, and I personally will revise and also go rewatch this video as well when I reach my like senior year to get some inspiration and also motivation regarding continuing my grad school program. So yeah, thank you very much, Bong. And also talk as we talk, like the time, like it flew by really fast, especially when we cover a lot of interesting topics. So it is quite sad that it's time to say goodbye to you, Bong Sievlan, and thank you very much for joining us like all the way from the United States to share with us a lot of very inspiring and motivating stories, and also your journey with us as well. And yeah, thank you very much once again, Bong. And to our audience, we hope that you really enjoy this episode. And if you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to drop them down in the comment section below.
Before you go though, we would really appreciate it if you like and share this podcast to your friends and your family, just to get inspired just like we are right now. And don't forget to also check us out on all of our AUPP social media platform, including Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Yes, and you can also find all of our episodes from both season 1 and season 2 on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And once again, thank you very much for tuning in today's episode, and we hope you can take care, stay safe, and don't forget to bear in mind the 3 do's and 3 don'ts altogether. So yeah, thank you very much and goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye.